Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome back. This is the special work session for the Burnsville City Council and our staff. This is a budget hearing, and so it is now 6:09, and I will call the special work session of the Burnsville City Council to order. Tonight's meeting is being conducted both in person and online. Members of the public may attend in person if they so choose, or the public can also watch this meeting online on burnsville.gov/meetings or Comcast Channel 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. More information is available on our meeting webpage and in the council agenda packet. Our work sessions are very informal, and we'll go directly to the item that we have on the agenda. And there's just one item on the agenda, and I'm going to go to the city manager first to make some opening remarks, and then and introduce our staff member and our guests who are going to be presenting this evening. Greg?
Thanks, Mayor. Madam Mayor, members of the council, tonight is our design development review of the Police City Hall project. So on, I believe it was November 28th of 2023, the City Council had directed staff into the design development process of the Police City Hall project. We have completed that work, and I will turn it over to Garrett, who will introduce our project team, talk a little bit about the project, and then give you a bit of a glimpse of what the presentation tonight will look like.
Great, thank you, Greg. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. Tonight, myself and then our Deputy City Manager, Chief Financial Officer, Jenny Rohde, and our consultant team, which is here tonight from CNH Architects, Quinn Hudson and Brooke Jacobson, and then from Kraus Anderson, Jason Rentmeester. Together, we will go through the presentation here and update you on where we're at with the design development process. So, all right. Real quickly, the background. Again, on November 28th, City Council directed staff to move the project forward to design development and also to look at options for a project to be funded by utility franchise fees. And then we were back before council just last month on July 9th, where council directed staff to continue to develop the options for that franchise fee funding strategy. The project timeline that we have been working off of, we did our schematic design process January through March of this year. And along the way, we had stakeholder engagement process for the community, for staff, and for council to get feedback on the project through schematic design. We then moved the project into the design development step, where again, April through July, we repeated that process of getting stakeholder engagement from staff and the community and council. And that has allowed us to get to this point that we're at this evening for this presentation on the project. If we get direction to move forward this evening, we'd be looking to go into construction document development, which would go from now through the end of the year. And that would allow us to bid early 2025 with a goal to then start breaking ground in May of 2025 for a project that would last about 3 years. Our team approach, again, we have guiding principles that kind of help us make decisions along the way, and it guided our Fire Station 1 project, and it's been a great process for helping to guide this project. I mentioned that it is a goal of ours to make sure that we have stakeholder input along the way and have different steps in place to allow that to happen. And then after that input happens, our consultants who are with us through that process, they take all of that information, and that's what influences the design that we will be sharing with you this evening.
All right, I will run through the cost estimates, just do a brief review and also review the discussions we've
Can you
had today.
speak up a
Oh,
little louder
I'm
so
sorry.
others could also hear you, Jen, please?
Yep. Yeah, I'll just run through cost estimates that we have, current cost estimates, some financing information, as well as some information on discussions that we've had and the calendar going forward. Pre-designed cost estimates that were presented last fall are on the left there. You can see the pre-design, the 2024 base year with inflated numbers, inflationary calculations for the following 4 years. So for 2025 cost estimates, the pre-design amount was $97.2 million. Currently, upon finishing design development, our 2025 construction cost estimates for Police City Hall are $96.8 million. So they've come down a bit. They're below the preliminary project estimates for 2025, and we will incorporate those into our funding strategies. Bid alternates as well have been identified for project efficiency, so we have identified a few bid alternates with that design development or design process. Should the council decide to move the project forward, funding considerations will be are planned for October, so that would include current cost estimates, starting to look at, fine-tuning financing and bonding numbers, as well as
Is that when we'll
alternatives.
also be aware of the bids? When? In October?
No, Madam Mayor, the construction and bid documents would be taking place from August through December, so we wouldn't have numbers back until January, February on the
Yeah,
actual
I'm
bid
just
numbers.
looking at the cost estimates that Jenny is speaking to now, and I think that's what I want to make sure, that we stay on focus, so that in any delays is going to look at that estimate and it's going to go up. And I'm wanting to make sure, because we've been working on this for such a long time, that those numbers don't change. If we looked at what Jenny had put up, right now where it, so that's where I just want to make sure that we get to understanding what the bids are going to be, and if we're hitting the mark with the cost estimates that we have right now.
Got one.
We'll have one more estimate that we'll be doing. It'll be towards the end of the year, a construction documents estimate. And so you'll be able to see that progression, and then the bids out to the public and those being received back with actual numbers will be that January, February timeframe.
Okay.
Okay, just a quick review of where we've been, what our previous discussions leading up to tonight's discussion. January, we had design input check-ins with council. We had some early feedback and reviewed the plan. In May, we reviewed the rating evaluation report, as well as talked to the council and got some design feedback. In June, individual check-in discussions focused on funding strategy and details of that, including franchise fee alternatives. And that update was discussed at the July 9th work session as well. July check-ins focused on design development review and really prepared us for tonight's meeting, the design development review. And then the decision and policy consideration for tonight will be, does council wish to advance the project to construction? Should the council move the project forward, we've laid out some timeline here for future discussion and meetings. Development approval would happen in September, I believe at the September 3rd regular meeting. A more detailed discussion of funding considerations and financing in October. In December, review final design with council at check-ins, and then authorizing bids would be at a December council meeting, with the award of contracts scheduled for February. So that's kind of The plans, should council move the project forward at this point for the rest of the year.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Again, I'm Quinn Hudson, and I'm going to be going through some of the design development images. As a reminder, design development is the process where we're taking the concept design and adding texture, details, colors, materials, and just further development of the project. So with that, we'll start looking at the front exterior. You can see a variety of materials across the building. We're looking at breaking up the masses and providing some rhythm along the project. The materials that we're looking at and presenting here are a slate gray brick that is pretty much the same brick that we had used at Fire Station 1. In addition to that, there is a buff-colored composite stone material that's a larger format, but similar colors as well as what you saw at Station 1. Other materials are on the left side of the screen is a blue cement composite panel, a Nishiha panel that you may recognize the name of. And, that was specifically selected and by police to kind of emphasize and identify their portion of the building. And then on the right-hand side, there's a little bit of gray of that cement panel as well. We've also developed larger entrances with a lot of daylight. We'll be looking at those closer, but those provide clear identity of entrance for both the police entrances and City Hall entrance. Should also mention that all the images we're looking at tonight are without landscaping. That is something that's in process and design, and that will be added next time you see images. So, oh yeah, I got it right. The next image is kind of a close-up of the police entry. So this is the police lobby, kind of a view from the City Hall entrance. It's also right off of the drop-off and parking area to the left. It's just off the view. You can start to see some of the materials here, the brick on either side of the entrance, the large stone panels where it says police, the Nishiha in the blue on either side. And then the larger open daylit entrance area with a very lot of light, creating a welcoming image and an opportunity to really see right into that lobby through that. So, this next image is the two-story back portion of the building. So this is mostly City Hall Edition areas. Again, you can see the rhythm of the materials breaking up across the facade to really divide that up into nice proportions. As you look to the far right is a portion of City Hall existing. As I'd like to mention that we will be recladding the portions of City Hall because we determined through previous projects that the interior weather barrier, the air barrier inside of the existing building is deteriorating and needs to be replaced. So we certainly would want to address that in a long-term answer. And with the goal of having a very durable exterior material that will last, that the target of 40, 50 years. So we wouldn't want to not cover that portion of the project at the same time. So again, we have the two-story areas. The stone at the left side, just to the right of that, in the second level, is the view out from the council chambers. And as we come around, are a lot of meeting rooms that look out over the pond, the stormwater pond, and into the nicely wooded hillside area. And then at the end of that, the large glass element with the sloped roof emphasizes the back side of the commons area, the public area throughout the facility. Going back to the police side of the facility, this is going inside now. And this is the police lobby. We're looking at that common area from the kind of the vestibule entrance area. So this is what the view you would have as you come into the building. Again, we're This is the first time to see some of the interior materials. We'll be seeing them on other portions of the building in the public areas. So again, in public areas, we looked at having materials that were durable, that would not regularly need, repainting, for example, things that would hold up to the regular use that you would expect in a public facility. So with that, the lighter color panels on the left are a light wood tone panel, but again, very durable. As you move back into the left corner, there is a vertical stripping of wood panels, again, that goes up and over that back entrance. Straight ahead is the stone panels and the reception area. That as you come in and you'll be talking to the receptionist through that. The countertops, area materials like that, we've incorporated some nice blue veining in a quartz material that would be, again, something that would really hold up to the use that you would expect in that facility. Of course, throughout all this area, we would be providing protection, between the public areas and the staff areas, bullet-resistant panels on the wall, bullet-resistant glass, as would be traditional in a public facility like this.
So, it's okay, because I think you're showing you're going to show from the other side, because one of the things that you talked is that making sure that the public area, so I see, and also during our education and study time with the mayor and council members, you're going to be talking about, because there'll be the interviewing rooms then, so that police can do all of their interviews right off the
Right off
lobby,
the-
rather
that's
than
correct.
going
Yeah,
through.
you can start to see them on the right-hand side, Mayor, you're absolutely correct. One of the functions in that connection, entry lobby, is to bring people in for interviews, and the doors enter right into that, and staff can enter from the other side, creating both a quick entrance, but also security between the two areas as well. Thank you.
And that's why also the expansion towards the parking lot
Yes,
of the
right.
lobby. Okay,
Absolutely. There definitely will be, guests coming to this entrance. So this is looking from the receptionist desk, looking out, at that front entry. You can see the two-story space on this, the volume of that, the daylighting that's really making it a bright, open space, even for the size of this area. As you mentioned, on the left-hand side now are the interview room doors. And then up above that is the clear story with a wood ceiling. We are including some acoustical absorption of that, so we, don't have too echoey a space, things like that. But what's really important for our opinion is that ability to sit there and look out and really see the entrance, be able to have a direct connection as people come in and welcome and address their needs, as well as being able to see out into the main area outside. Moving over to the City Hall side of the entrance, a little bit closer in view of that. Again, same materials as we've been talking about the rest of the building. We're looking at that rhythm of the arched areas with the tall windows on the left and right, brick in between, and then, of course, the two-story entrance to the commons area that goes down, provides daylight along that whole area. So very bright and open feeling, with the whole goal of being very welcoming to the community as they come up. Also, important to be able to see the wayfinding, the City Hall messages, so that you can recognize that you are heading in the right direction, and whether your needs are City Hall or if the police entrance. Through that, we're also looking at including planters and other elements that look nice and add aesthetic to the landscape, but also provide security, so that we're protecting the building facade and the pedestrians in the front of the building from any potential vehicle intrusion into that. We're now inside the commons area. This is right inside the vestibules. And we're looking right towards the reception welcome area at the left. It was very important that that was very front center, very visible as we come into the commons, and so that as guests, citizens, come to City Hall, they are immediately know where they're headed, are welcomed and directed, and the help that they need, are looking for is being provided. The materials are the same as we talked about in the police lobby, with some addition of some of the darker blue accents over the welcome areas, and then further down the commons area, lobby area, are service counters. The two more service counters that would address interaction between different departments and the community coming in. We'll have more opportunities to look at graphics and other enhancements to this, but we're currently showing some graphics in the back of the reception area. We're thinking of something that is, creating a map of Burnsville, kind of, and creating interest back there and bringing the statement as this is where you're at. With that, the materials, again, are the large stone where it says City of Burnsville, vertical wood paneling going up in between each service counter. And in this one, we've switched the colors to the wood panels are the dark wood color because it's a much more open, brighter space. So the darker color kind of balances that out. Okay, next. This is looking through the commons directly from the entrance, and we can see some of the other features that you would see right when you come in as you're looking into that. To the right, there's a Connect Center that is providing information that, whether it's on a touchscreen, handouts, can also be places where we'll have furniture that if you come into the reception, they say, oh, a staff person will be right out to help you. Once you have a seat, things like that. So it's welcoming and right focus area for the connecting to the community at that spot. Again, we haven't, like landscape, we're not showing furniture yet. That's something that has not been selected. We didn't want to indicate something that isn't final. There will be obviously some furniture throughout this area. As we look down, some of the things you'll see, besides the large amount of daylight for a very bright commons area, but we have, again, acoustical wood slat ceilings for some warmth and softness. A variety of interesting lighting to really kind of bring your eye down that commons area, looking towards the windows at the end that then look out into the pond and the woods. So, our next stop is just a little bit further in, just after the Connect Center, where we're looking at the council chamber foyers. So that is the area that is off the council chambers that is a flexible and variety of uses. So whether it's a large meeting, then we open up the back of the council chambers through the operable doors that are there. So you can have larger events. You could have a pre-event or a badging that could happen, but there could also be furniture or gathering things out there, and other times that would, again, be that flexible space to really meet a variety of needs. Straight ahead on this image is the darker wall that we're looking at really being focused on a opportunity to have a history display. So we're looking for a variety of flexible uses there, including graphic panels that aren't shown yet. We're again, those haven't been developed, but we're looking at having a variety of those on the wall, along with a video monitor that could show historical videos of things relevant to Burnsville history. So, and then, as I mentioned, and we'll be looking at further, but the back wall of the council chambers is designed to fold up and be something that can be very open when it's desired. We are showing glass even when it's closed. The idea is to really have transparency and welcome feeling into the council chamber area. So, as we then move into council chambers, this is our first view of that. This version is shown set up for a work session. So what we're seeing is the work session in a circular format to provide the best view and sound and interaction with the members at the workshop table. The back portion of the dais would be fixed, of course, for the council and some staff. The front portion of that circle would be movable millwork desk areas that can pull together, snap together, and then quickly reset up in the different formats while still looking very permanent. There's still room for additional guests, as you can see in the chairs out there. Our ceiling development is really based on that circular format of the dais with wood paneling, wood slats, again, acoustical. Acoustics are very critical in this area. We've been working with acoustical engineer to make sure that we really maximize the ability to hear and reduce echo and really provide a good acoustic space. Other materials in there are, again, repeating some of the large stone and then on the two back sides of the rooms, the wood panels. And then behind the council dais is some curved partial walls that provide a nice backdrop to events going on in there. And we'll see a little bit closer view of that in a couple pictures. So with that next. This is another view set up as a work session. It is kind of from the back corner against the movable glass wall. So you really get a picture of the whole room. We can see the terrazzo flooring that's out in the commons kind of slides into the room. So really, especially if the doors are open, it really just connects from that council foyer right into the space as well, kind of define the back edge of the seating area. You can see again the dais, the multiple curved walls that create that backdrop, but also provide the opportunity for an appropriate safe egress for council members if needed, and it leads back to a safe room that would be appropriate in today's community design. This version of the city council chambers is set up for a council meeting. So the movable desks that were part of the work session have now been put away into a storage room, and we have the podium for presentations front and center. That podium would be able to be moved around, but also it could be in the center at the work session as well. But you can see the intent of this is having a very connected feeling between council dais and the audience. We're providing a main floor dais area. So again, to really create that direct connection feeling between the council areas and the audience. Again, you can see the curved walls a little bit better as we get closer here, and the materials behind it. We again have stone panels, wood panels. The back wall, curved wall, is the vertical wood panels as well, with a large format TV for audience viewing of the events being broadcast in the back area. Moving on into a portion of the community area. This are the community rooms. It's right off the main entry. As you come in, just opposite the hallway from the council chambers, are these three community rooms. They also open up into the front of the building where there's a small patio for overflow and outdoor breaks or connections for different events. This community room is shown set up in a round table, whether it be banquet or training. It could also be set up in a more formal linear training seating, as well as chairs only. So it's meant to be very flexible. It also can be divided into thirds. The dark panels at the top of the ceiling and in between those are a vertical accordion sound partition that would drop down and quickly separate the room into 1/3 or 2/3, or again, raise it up to all three. Like the other public areas that we've been mentioning throughout, from police to city hall commons area, we're using durable materials that will provide, that long-term value, for that 40, 50 year with, reduced maintenance. So again, we're minimizing painted walls within the common area, touch areas, so that we can have that durability and nice appearance as well. So the panels along the sides and the back of this image are the large format composite stone panels. Excuse me. The dark portions, of course, are the smooth wood. And we have, and then in the ceilings, we have a textured, but just lay-in acoustic tile ceiling. It's just, what's unique about it is just the panels have just different thicknesses, so they have that staggered look, but it's still a relatively traditional acoustic grid system. Things we looked at in here is just the variety of uses that these spaces could be put and used for public use, for staff use. We can see the banquets, trainings, seminars, corporate events, large gatherings, fundraisers, just a variety of possibilities for a room like this. And we're providing the technology so that all those different functions can work well. And including even thinking of things like color-changing lights that would shine on the light stone panels that can be adapted to either corporate colors or a wedding party event color. So really kind of trying to make it a very, very flexible space. And our last room to be looking at tonight is the mid-sized meeting room. This would be right off the Commons, a little bit further back between the two service counters. We wanted to particularly focus on this room because it provides kind of that different mid-size use that it's smaller than, of course, the large community rooms, but it's bigger than a conference room. It's set up here in a kind of a board, interaction type setting, but it could be set up in a training setting to seat 40. It could be, one of the things we feel would be a good use for this room would be early voting, because that gives them the opportunity to have enough room for that, but able to separate it off from the other functions, lock it up in between, and provide the security that's appropriate for that. This room, we're, again, mixing some of the same materials, but the one unique, different aspect here is the wood panels that go up are actually continuing across the ceiling. Again, acoustical panels with sound absorptions to really make this room have a nice feel when you're in use in that. So with that, I've covered the rooms. I'm very happy to open to any questions you might have on any of the pieces that we've just gone through.
Members of the council, any questions? Okay. Any questions? Yes?
Not specific to the design element so much, but regarding just the public input, is there a way just for the listening public to kind of run through who we spoke with, kind of just our stakeholders, what that all entailed to get us to this point? Since I believe that was kind of the basis of the meeting, was the public engagement.
I'll go to our city manager, because I think.
Good question, Vince. Attached to your work session packet, there's a summary of the engagement process really through July of 2022, which is when we started the pre-design process, kind of through that November 2023 decision point where the council had asked for us to go into pre-design, what we did following through the schematic design process and then ultimately into design development. So there's an attachment in your packet that kind of summarizes that, and I think I'll turn it to Garrett. Garrett's been our project leader. He can probably speak best to our general approach to engagement through the phases of the project. Obviously, it's varied over the course of now 2.5 years, kind of based on where we have been with the project and what we've been doing.
Yeah,
And Garrett, in looking at the process, can you speak to what we have done, in terms of our process? Because I'm looking at all of this, and I'm looking at all of the meetings that we've had that I've been engaged in. because I go all the way back to, and I don't know whether you were a part of that, with the Ames Center, then fires, police, and then Fire Station 1, and now police and fire. So, you know, I'm looking at our process and how that has been. So that'll probably inform some of your process as you engage the community.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, Councilmember Workman, just building on what Greg said, you know, this project has really been divided up into phases, and along the way, we've had an emphasis on trying to connect with people in multiple different ways, and looking at the stakeholders, who they are, how to best reach them. So in each phase along the way, we were looking at if people are physically coming into the facility, for example, we had cards that we set up. If people had meetings in rooms, our staff in the evening would have cards saying, hey, we'd love your input. We'd have boards out in the lobby, and we would do that not only here in City Hall, but those would be available in police, at our ice center, and our golf course. Additionally, you know, we know not everyone comes into the facility, so our communication efforts, whether it's through social media or our different news outlets that we provide, Burnsville Bulletin, Greg's Communications and whatnot, we have different articles along the way during each section. So that would have been the original space study that we did on the process. We collected that input, and then used that input to then help inform the pre-design, and then we repeated it for the community. And then we did similar things with staff along the way and also with council along the way. So whether it was the initial space study, whether it was pre-design, whether it was a design, we are intentional about connecting with all the different groups, repeating that process, getting communications out, making sure that people who were interested, who had the that they had the opportunity to share that input with us. And then again, all of that, CNH and Kraus Anderson were partners along the way, and they would take that information in, and it would help inform the design that you've seen today.
Thank you. And then I guess like how frequently were we engaging in like meetings, like with groups like the chamber or other community groups that, you know, were wanting to be, I guess, somewhat a part of this process? Is that something that we were also participating in?
Yeah, I know for sure, I participated with Greg and the mayor. We were at a chamber meeting. There was information with the Burnsville Lions Club that we handed out. So I know firsthand those two, between pre-design and design, making sure that they are aware of the project and opportunities to provide input and the different outlets for them to provide that. I would yield to any of the other, this has really been a team approach of pretty much everyone at this table from staff have been part of weekly meetings and trying to connect with our community. We looked for ambassadors and folks that we could share the information with and try to help spread the word as much as we could. So I don't know if I missed anything that.
I can add, last week I did a presentation at the Chamber of Commerce. Now, it wasn't specific to this project, but it was more about like the history of the police department, and we did touch on this with the people that were there.
Okay.
So I think a great summary. You know, beyond the chamber, I know that the chiefs have been active in making Rotary presentations in other different organized community groups. Certainly, there's been the drop-in opportunities at City Hall, kind of the broader community engagement that Garrett has mentioned, and then alongside the electronic surveys where you really see a lot of the kind of, no matter if it was in person or online, electronically, kind of that's where the data and the summary that you've seen tonight, just kind of general, what I would call design development feedback, at least to date, this phase of the project has been collected. But again, kind of back to Garrett's point, that's been repeated through the multiple phases of the project, starting in pre-design through schematic design, and then ultimately now in design development.
Yeah, Chief?
Madam Mayor, members of council, I would just add that I think we're consistent in how we've approached it. I think back to Fire Station 1 or the PD expansion originally, like we presented to all these stakeholder groups, and then they had the opportunity to provide input like other community members would have. and that's how we've approached it previously.
Thank you.
Okay. I do, yes, Councilmember Keely.
Well, this whole project likens back to the late 80s, when you were just a city council member. Oh, no, you weren't on
I
yet.
wasn't on the council, but I was very involved because of being part of the faith community at the time when we were building this building, and we were also asked to participate. So,
I just want to read real quick a little clip of something that I saved. It was from January 13th, 1988. Take an interest in municipal building. A couple months ago, during a meeting at the Burnsville City Council, Mayor Dan McElroy said planning for the city's municipal building may be the most important task this council will undertake. The size and scope of that is probably fairly similar to the size and scope of what we're doing here. That is probably true. In each planning session, architects, engineers, landscape planners are talking about their work lasting 20, 30, maybe 50 years. I believe we got about, well, we're 35, 36 years, so pretty close to the middle range of what they thought it would support the city's needs. In a rapidly changing community where the landscape and the skyline changes daily, it's difficult to think how it will look. It will all look in 50 years. Well, we're only 15 years away from that now. The council has taken its responsibility seriously. Hours of discussion during dozens of meetings have been spent poring over blueprints, asking questions, hashing out details of the building. The council is truly concerned that the community will have a building to which it can be proud, but also which will serve the needs of the community and will be built within reasonable expenditures. With today's inflation, I think reasonable expenditures is a little challenging than it was back then. Actually, pre-COVID, it was probably still purposeful. This is obviously a huge project, and I think it is important to Vince's question that we truly engage all of their larger community groups within the city of Burnsville, because this is the largest price tag of anything we've done in
Well, anything
probably
that's
since
relative.
1988, in 1988 dollars, right? If
Yeah,
you took the cost of
relative,
that
yeah.
and brought it up to 2024, it would probably be of the scale of what we're talking about here. So it is important to make sure that we get buy-in and input and feedback all along the way, and so that everyone feels they're a part of it, and whether they may or may not agree with what we're doing, I think it's important to make the overriding statement that we are not doing a Band-Aid like we did 5 or 6 years ago, where we spent several $1 million and got 5 years. To me,
with police, you
it
mean.
was great that we finally put a police garage in place. But ultimately, had we done this process back then, the price tag of this would be less than half of what it
Yeah.
is today. And we would have done it right, and we would be set up for the next 30 to 40, maybe 50 years. We're now doing that, and there's no price tag that will ever be small when you're talking about remodeling a facility
Yeah.
to support the city's needs for many decades.
Yeah.
It's a tough price tag, no matter how you slice it. It's going to be big. But I think it's, from my perspective, the Fire Station 1 example that BJ pointed out is what we're building this model on. Fire Station 1 will take the fire department for decades to ever outgrow it. It was done right once, and the taxpayers never have to come back. We're not going to come back in 5 years ago. Well, we got 5, 6 years out of it, now we got to do another enhancement, and the price tag just keeps getting higher and higher. So it is monstrous. It's the Hulk of all remodels for us. But communication is important. The scale and scope and how long it's going to take the city and support the city is also a big influencing factor for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're right, and so on December 8th, we met with the chamber, and you were there at their public policy. And Dan McElroy was present, and he spoke the same words that you're articulating about all of that. So I do know, because Brady is here from the chamber, and that they would like to have more input. But I believe that to stay on schedule, that we need to continue to move forward with the timeline that we have in place. For me, it's, to your point, Councilmember Keely, it's that price tag, and we don't know what the cost of labor is going to be, the cost of materials and so forth. We have an estimate now, and that's why moving to construction allows us to understand what the bids are. And right now, looking at the estimates that we have on the table, because it went up from 90-some, and now we're at, Jenny, what, 92 for both police and fire? And when you look at where we're at, so when people want to understand, City Hall is expanding to 9,000 square feet. That will meet the 2037 of what the need is for City Hall. And police is 24,000 square feet. To your point, Councilmember Keely, we didn't do it right. And you and I fought very hard.
To get what we got, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we didn't prevail. So, Jenny, your estimates right now?
The estimates right now, for police, City
And-
Hall are 96.8
Yeah.
million.
I'd like to continue to move towards that rather than having it come back and you guys come back and say, well, here's the price of labor, here's the price of materials and et cetera. So,
Mayor,
members,
since you brought up, could staff just kind of run through that high-level top line, timeline, sorry?
Yeah.
For, the next steps over the next few weeks, months.
yeah, but I would also want to make sure that staff meet with the chamber, go back and meet with the chamber and get some, get their feedback, because I do know, I looked at the number of engagements that we had. Chief, I believe you and Tanya and Greg, did you not also go to a public policy on this particular one after the December 8th meeting that you were, and Tanya and Greg and Councilmember Keely and Garrett and I all went to? Did you have, you had another follow-up meeting with them also, did you not?
Madam Mayor, I know we went to a public policy meeting. I couldn't recall the date off the top of my head, but I know we've met with the public policy group. Greg might have.
Yeah,
Bless you.
I think that was in December, so the December 8th date could be correct. I would have to look.
Yeah.
I don't have it
Okay.
in front of me, but that, it was just right after, kind of back, Councilmember Keely, back to your timeline question, it was just shortly after the late November city council decision to move the project into design development when that meeting occurred.
Yeah. But now that we have more, I think the chamber wants to understand more, because now we said go forward with design, we have design, now we're moving towards construction, but having those meetings while you're doing all of the work towards construction. So you want them to look at the timeline, they baked
Well, yeah,
overview
more
of the timeline?
specifically, this is a high level, maybe more specifically, council process, and when we are going to be looking at voting on the project, voting on the financing,
Yeah.
those kinds of dates.
Yeah,
Councilmember Keely, members of the council, I can take it as I'm looking around the room.
No one wanted to take that one?
Garrett is not wanting to
So-
take that.
So right now, to keep, and again, we can go back to the slide that Garrett just had up, but essentially to keep us on the project schedule as the council has seen since November of 2023, the plan forward would include a number of steps, some of which, and I know that we've had some conversation even in the July work session about this, some of which are still yet to be determined as we seek the council's decision guidance tonight, and then ultimately start looking at really building out the funding strategy that we talked about on July 9th. So here in August, we had committed to a design development review. That was something that we had committed to back in November. Ultimately, if the council were to decide tonight to give direction to our policy question for us to continue into construction, we would ask at the late August, and this is where I'm going to need
The
staff
20th.
help, the 20th.
20th.
We'd ask for the council's direction to advance to construction. Really what that will do is ensure we have agreements in place with our partners who are sitting at the table here tonight, both KA and CNH. by the end of August, we'll be out of agreement with both of those project partners. So any sort of progress would have to stop at that point in time because we wouldn't have architects or construction managers on our team. That would then take us into September, where there would be a planning commission development review, just like any other development here in town. The planning commission, when there are certain triggering elements, would review a development. There are several of those elements, and Jeff is probably wanting to kick me under the table right now because that's not a very articulate way to talk about our planning world. But nevertheless, that development approval then would come back to the city council either on a consent agenda if it was if it was a unanimous vote of the planning commission, which is our pattern, or on the regular agenda in your September meeting. So that would get us through the August planning commission review and then to the city council's ultimate development review decision, just like we would do in any sort of other development project in town. Right now, we've put what I'm going to call a placeholder in the schedule in October to come back and talk more about the funding considerations. There are several things that need to happen between now and our next real conversation about funding strategy. Obviously, you've seen tonight some good news. That is that large assumptions that have gone into the funding strategy that we've talked about, like $100 million project cost, are actually going to be lower than that number that we've used to inform the different scenarios that the council talked about both in November and now again in July. We would likely come back to a work session to talk more about those narrowing the funnel of the development process into that funding strategy in October to get the council's further direction on that variable franchise fee increase that was decided upon by the majority of the council in July. That would help us then, and at that point in time, we'd have more information to talk about where we were at schedule-wise with our partners, and through the work that we've done, that we'll do internally between now and then, should we move forward, to talk about things like when possibly and how we might approach going out for bond issuance on the project. We've talked a bit, even in July, about big questions like would we issue bonds in one issue? Would we divide it into multiples? Again, there are economic, there are operational, there are cash flow considerations in all of that. We'd be more prepared in October to talk about that, where then we can start slotting. What you don't see here is the council's consideration of the bonding decision and ultimate financing decisions that would need to happen between essentially October and early 2025 to keep, again, the project on that schedule. Then you'd have a final design review in late December and likely authorize bids late December, allowing us to keep on target with the 2025 kind of cost estimates that you're seeing in both the DD cost estimating and the early cost estimating from November, which Jenny had talked through in that slide earlier that kind of showed the years of inflationary increases compared to the DD estimate. That then, if the council would authorize bids, would likely set us up for a scenario that sometime mid to late February, we would come back with the results of those public bids. We would work with our project partners, the team here. KA would help us through the process, much like we did for the fire station project, where we would then open those bids, review them, and then ultimately come back in what we would anticipate being February to award those contracts, either to the low bidder or to the high-performing bidder, depending on the type of funding strategy or bid strategy that we use for the project, which we have talked about over the course of the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Follow up for clarification. So in the interest of engaging the chamber one more time, in the next week or two, it looks like that would work well because August 20th is the first or the next council decision to continue the contracts, or we will have a gap in services from our construction partners. which is probably a date that has been in flux as this has moved forward, because I don't see it on our future meetings for the 20th, so it's kind of as a result of certain things previous, like tonight, for example, right? But that would give the chamber an opportunity to have some input, if some members of the business community said, we have something that we'd like this building to supply the business community, that would be potentially an opportunity for them to bring that forward and have an opportunity maybe to address it before it's too late, call it.
Councilmember Keeley, certainly it's something that we can do. Actually, I had about an hour and a half meeting with Jennifer Harmoning, the executive director, president of the chamber, this morning. So certainly we've talked about the chamber's interest in making sure that we're good partners and sharing information, and also heard some of the concern about the difference between input and feedback, and we had a good conversation about the chamber's perspective on that. And I'll say to you what I've said to her. It's incredibly important to me personally as city manager and to this organization that we have a strong relationship with the chamber, our school district, our CDB. We have important partnerships, people that are important that we work with, and we want to make sure that that we're meeting expectations as we're managing big, important projects like this. So certainly opportunities present themselves to do that. In terms of project timing, if the council were to want me to do that, or within that time period by August 20th, I can certainly try. Many of our staff who have been integral to this project, including our chief of police, are out for the next several weeks. So that potentially could create a wrinkle, I think, in having good dynamic conversations about needs, but we certainly can work to figure out how to address those issues in a short time period, should that be something the council wishes us to do.
I'm not so sure the business community would have any impact on, or ideas on how the PD should be designed, but
Yeah.
it's very possible the rest of City Hall, which is really a large community center and community gathering point and community use building, that there may be some ideas that are brought forward, for the rest of it. So, absent our chief, we do have a very capable assistant chief, who could attend.
Yeah.
But, I think it's great that we'll offer them an opportunity. I think it's,
Yeah.
We're seeing more of an HGTV rendering that is a little bit more lifelike of what it's probably, what it's come together over the
Yeah.
last year, right? So I think things happen for a reason. We would like to have had this earlier, but there's still a great opportunity here to capitalize on something that you can see, it's sort of really envision. You get a census to the space and the uses, and it offers, I think, the chamber an opportunity to provide input that they may say, boy, if this could be this, that could be a huge benefit to our business community overall, et cetera, just throwing that as an example. So I think it's a
Yeah.
good thing that that meeting happens.
Yeah.
And we still, it appears that we still have time to
Yeah.
take that kind of input and react to it and work with it at this point in the timeline.
And partnership has always been important to me, because when I came into office, the city didn't meet with the Chamber of Commerce, or with the school district, or with the commissioners, or any of our faith communities. So I instituted and asked our city manager at the time to meet with me and the chamber, and that was Barb Overstar at the time, back then, to meet with me and the chamber president and their board. And we've done that throughout all of my years in office. We do the same thing with ISD 191, and we also meet with 196. We reached out to 194, but 194 doesn't think that it was relevant because they don't have a school in Burnsville like 196 has Echo Park. And they have just a sliver down in Crystal Lake that goes to 194. So that was okay. And But we have continued that tradition, and so it is important to hear their voices on all of these things. So I think staff is asking us tonight to advance the project to construction, if everybody still is in that mindset, and direct our city manager to work with the chamber, and to your point, look at some of the things. And I agree with you, probably they might not have any input with regard to police, but they might have some input with regard to City Hall. And I remember, Chief, you can also attest to this, the community rooms at Fire Station 1 was part of all the different engagement with all of the different community people that you engaged in the conversation with regard to those community rooms and how it would be used and how they can use it. Because I know Lions have used it. We have come there for some of our meetings. Yeah,
Yeah, Madam Mayor, we are intentional to have community space as part of that design.
yeah, and that would be really important. Yeah, Dan, Gus,
I agree that the chamber should be involved. I agree that our citizens should be involved, but I also will say that we've been having meetings for a long time on this, and they've had an opportunity to be involved every step of the way at all of our public meetings. We have showed up at the chamber and talked to them about things. And again, having them involved and getting feedback is a good idea, but I don't think we should be delaying this project while we're going through that process. I think we need to be moving forward. I'm worried we could get delayed to the point where it's going to cost us more money to get this done, and I don't want to see that happen.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Okay. Members of the council, staff is asking us here to advance the project to construction, and as you can see, that's what tonight is, and then they will continue their work and then come back to us for decision-making with the timeline that they have for us.
I'd like
Yeah.
to relay one more question I've received from a handful of members of the Community Foundation. There was some questions about the homage statue, if that was gonna be incorporated into any of these designs.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, out of respect for the impact that has on our team, I'd ask our fire chief to address that question.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, that's something we're working on. It's a delicate balance. Prior to February, it had a different meaning than it has to us now, and activates certain thoughts and emotions for people. So we're trying to be cognizant and get input on where the appropriate place on the campus is, and to be intentional about that, and then how does that wrap in with the February incident? So, yeah, there's a preliminary plan, that there's a lot more work to be done on that, but there is a plan that we're starting to develop, and making sure that we're getting input from our staffs to make sure they're comfortable with that. And then potentially looking at, is that also a good combination with like some sort of public memorial for what we have gone through and experienced, losing three heroes back in February. So we're trying to create a delicate balance there. But yes, there's.
Yeah,
that
and
was a
I
lot of words to
understand,
say, there's a
Garrett.
plan.
I got you.
Yeah, and Garrett, you're
you.
you're on a foundation board with me, so you're continuously to have conversations with Brady around homage, correct? Because we've talked about different locations.
Yeah, Madam Mayor, members of the council, building on what BJ said, our communication, going back several months has really been, this is a process to work with police and fire, the families and staff to allow them to work through this and to get input and come up with a good plan. Our partners with CNH have been part of this process, and the goal is to ultimately, when the time is right, to come back to the foundation and get input from the foundation as well, so that we have a really well-thought-out project that will honor everyone involved. So, yes,
Yeah,
that
and-
is
and I-
absolutely front and center.
And I believe with homage, because homage was a piece of sculpture that a lot of community members paid for. And it was completed over 2 years ago. But because we were planning this project, it has been on hold. because we did have an identified space for it, an approved identified space. But then with the project, it got into a hold position. And so I think we need to balance all of that as well with what's going on. That this is something that the community was really behind before February 18th. And where we place it, we need to continuously have that conversation, because the community saw it, and it was there, representing that for the longest time, this community supports police and fire. And homage is an expression and testament to that.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, it's an incredibly important conversation. I am extraordinarily grateful to the Community Foundation, for the type of support that they continue to show for our police and fire staff. February 18th changed all of us forever. In our commitments since that day, we've always said that we are going to honor our fallen heroes. We're going to take care of their families and our police and fire departments, and that's what's come first in this conversation. It admittedly has meant more delay, which can be frustrating to all of us. What I don't want to lose sight of is our community has shown the type of care and support for our police and fire staff that they deserve, from my perspective, from our perspective as an organization. And I don't want that narrative to be lost in what has been an incredibly challenging 6 months in this organization. So in late February, we did talk, Madam Mayor, with the Community Foundation, and Garrett has had some conversations since. It is incredibly important to us to find as quick of a possible solution to getting homage installed and celebrated in the way that it should be, and aligning that with just the reality, to Chief Junman's point, that it's taken us a bit of time to engage with our police and fire departments about what that means, consider the potential of perhaps, if the Community Foundation is interested, pairing it with a public memorial to Paul, Matt, and Adam. That's taken some time. I think we've made good progress on that. I don't want to get ahead of the progress, because frankly, I haven't been involved in all of those conversations. But I'm very hopeful, certainly as part of this project, that we have a clear path forward to do something, should the Community Foundation be agreeable and it be an appropriate decision for everyone involved, that we can do something pretty spectacular with it, and to memorialize our fallen, which is I'm sure everyone can understand, is both an incredibly important conversation and commitment for us as an organization, and a really hard one, too.
Thank you for that clarification.
Do you have anything?
That's it.
Huh?
That's all I got.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes.
Just for the benefit of the audience and all of us to clarify, tonight, it's verbal direction to support going to, construction phase, but that doesn't mean everything is etched in concrete and nothing can change
Yeah,
per se.
because we still have a lot of things to go.
We have a lot of steps to go through, but we need to keep our contractor and our
Yeah.
architect engaged and working
Yeah.
on it as we gather more information.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So, members of the council, continue to move forward?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Staff? Then, city manager? Is it unanimous to continue to move forward?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I have the direction that I need. Appreciate the feedback. I just want to reiterate, we always want to get it right when it comes to making outrageous efforts to reach and connect to the community. I know that In particular, the Chamber's expressed some concerns about that opportunity, and it's my intention to do everything that I possibly can to ensure that our partnership, our relationship, and our communication results in those experiences for folks who are important in our community, both the Chamber and anyone else who might be interested in what this project means. So I will do my best in terms of the timeline to get something scheduled with the Chamber. I'll keep the council updated on that progress and report back to you on what we hear.
Yeah.
And we'll do my best to do that ahead of August 20th. If we aren't able to make that happen, we'll come back to the council and we'll talk about how we handle those agreements with our project partners and what that means for scheduling and timing.
Okay. And we'll continue to keep all of the meetings that we have with the Chamber, you and I and the Chamber President and Chair.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and with the school
Mayor,
district
those
as
are,
well.
Yep, those are on the calendar.
Yeah.
I mentioned a conversation with Jennifer this morning. We're also
Yeah.
talking about how we connect our staff in better ways. So I'm working on that too,
Okay.
directly with her. And again, we'll make sure that we create an environment where everyone feels heard and involved, and that we're doing our part to communicate well and
Yeah.
engage them well.
Yeah, and this has been a terrific team effort. I like the fact that we have education-informed individual meetings with our staff and our consultants, because it's a really easy give and take and asking a lot of questions. So, to everybody, to members of the council, city manager, to all of our staff members, to our consultants, thank you. This has been hard, and especially some of our staff members who have been here when we worked on police the first time around, and then working on Fire Station 1, because I look around the room and I think Venables might be the only one during the Ames Center, right? Jenny, were you here? Oh, and Michelle. Yeah. Yeah. Jenny, were you here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was here.
And Jenny was here? Who else was
I
here?
lived through it vicariously.
Yeah. Huh? Well, I know you.
I was
Yeah.
here, I just didn't work on it.
Were you
I
here
was
for
here, I
Ames?
didn't work on it, though, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Gary worked on it.
Because, yeah, I remember all of those trips going to look at all of those different buildings. And the same thing we did for police and fire. I think Dan Keeley and I were the only ones who went on those tours to look at the different police stations, look at the different fire stations and all of that. Did you? You didn't go.
here
You
when
weren't
you
on
guys-
the.
You'd have done it right if I would have been here the first time.
Not exactly what I didn't want to have come up, but
I don't know about that, but, okay. So, staff, you have your direction? And if there's nothing else, anybody else? If there's nothing else, we stand adjourned by acclamation. Thank you so much, and you'll continue to work with the chamber.
absolutely.
Okay, very good.